Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Bolton from the Hormone Mentor, and I want to talk to you today about heavy bleeding. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm a nutritional therapist that helps women that are going through the perimenopause to manage their symptoms through diet and lifestyle changes. And one of the things that I have seen quite a lot recently is women coming to me because they are really struggling with very heavy periods and what's known as flooding, where they're just not able to control the flow of their period. They're having to change their tampon and wear extra pads usually every 2 hours, and the flow just keeps on coming and coming, and that can go on for 2 to 3 days. Now, it can be very distressing. It can really be detrimental to the way that you live your life, feeling like you can't go to work, you don't feel like you want to go out because you need to be near a toilet all the time, and you're worried about it leaking onto your clothes. It can also be a very upsetting time. Can make you feel quite emotional because you don't really know what's going on in your body, and you can be quite worried about it. Now, if this is something that's happened to you on a regular basis and it's something that's been going on for quite a while, I would always recommend that you go and see your GP to make sure that there isn't anything more serious going on. But I also want to say that it is quite a normal thing during the perimenopause for this to happen, and what it's caused by is estrogen dominance. Now, this is when your estrogen is much higher than your progesterone, and your progesterone levels are very, very low. So when an egg's not released from the ovaries during the perimenopause, which is quite a common thing because your eggs are not released from your ovaries every single month like they used to be, your estrogen is still produced. Now, that means that you're not getting enough progesterone to balance out the effect of estrogen, and that is what can lead to heavy periods. So your estrogen levels are high in the phase when your progesterone levels are supposed to be dominant. So there is an imbalance, and that ratio between the two is what it can cause heavy periods, it can cause breast pain, it can cause mood changes. It can be quite upsetting for people and have quite a major effect on their life. Now, there are things that you can do in your diet to help minimize it, and making sure that you are getting plenty of nutrients in your diet from plant-based sources, from lots of different colours of fruits and vegetables, from beans and pulses and nuts and seeds can be really beneficial. And also making sure that you're not having too much sugar and caffeine, because that puts a lot of pressure onto your liver because it's working on metabolizing those rather than working on doing the job that it's meant to be doing, like getting rid of those excess hormones which are circulating around your body. It is really important that your body is excreting excess estrogen. You haven't got those old estrogen hormones going round and round causing all sorts of havoc. Now, of course, if you are struggling with heavy bleeding, then I would say, making sure that you're having lots of iron is important, because you are at risk of developing anemia if this goes on. You can get that from red meat, you can get it from green leafy vegetables, are really good sources, and also something called spirulina has very high sources, and that's like a plant-based, and it's like an algae, which sounds horrible, but you can hardly taste it if you put it in a smoothie, and it is a really, really good source of iron. And it also is something that your body absorbs very easily, so you're getting that intake of iron going straight into the blood. Now, stress is also a factor that can cause changes to your hormone production, which can trigger heavier periods. So if you do have a lot of stress in your life, thinking about how you can reduce that or how you can maybe learn to handle it better is really important as well. Now, there's also a couple of things that I always recommend to my clients when it comes to heavy bleeding that are an additional thing you can do. Now, one of them is called seed cycling, and that is something that you do that sort of follows your menstrual cycle, although you can do it as perimenopause if your cycle is all over the place as well. Now, the idea behind it is that during the follicular phase of your cycle, so days 1 to 14, you get a build-up in the endometrium, which is the uterus lining, and that is when your cycle is estrogen dominant. And during that time, you should be taking in seeds like flax seeds and pumpkin seeds, which help to naturally increase your estrogen levels, because that is when they are supposed to be dominant. And when I'm talking about increasing estrogen levels, I'm not talking about the synthetic estrogens that you're taking, but natural ones that your body knows how to deal with. Now, days 15 to 28, the luteal phase, which is when your progesterone is released, and that helps to thicken the lining, prepare your body for implantation if you are thinking about fertility. That's an important phase. But if you are perimenopausal, it's also important, because when your progesterone levels are low and you don't get that release of progesterone in the way that you're meant to, that means that your levels become lower, that estrogen becomes dominant, and it can cause the heavy bleeding and all the other symptoms that we talked about. Now, the mineral zinc and the vitamin E help to stimulate progesterone production, so they're really important. So having seeds like sesame and sunflower seeds during this phase. So what I normally recommend is that people start off having 1 tablespoon of flaxseed and 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seed during the days 1 to 14 of their cycle, and tablespoon of sesame seed and a tablespoon of sunflower seeds in the second half, days 15 to 28 of the cycle. So you are raising your estrogen levels when they're supposed to be high, raising your progesterone levels when they are supposed to be high, so that you're getting the balance right of when the hormones are released. Now, if you aren't actually having periods regularly, it doesn't really matter when you start having it because your cycle's so out of whack anyway. So just start taking the flax and pumpkin seeds, take them for 14 days and then kick in with the sesame and sunflower seeds, and make sure that you are tracking what you're doing, because it's easy to forget what day you're on. Now, if you don't want to eat them just raw, you can chuck them in a smoothie, mix them in some yogurt. You know, there are easy ways to do it, but just, you know, you are going to lose some of the effects if you actually cook them and have them at a high temperature. So try and have them in their raw form. Now, another thing that you can try is a herb called chasteberry or Agnus castus. Now, that's something that will naturally help to promote boosting your progesterone levels, and it's something which is used a lot for people that are going through and struggling with PMS, but it's also beneficial for people with low progesterone during the perimenopause. So that's another thing that you could look at taking if you are struggling a lot. What you tend to find with the more natural things like seed cycling and chasteberry are that it can take 2 to 3 cycles to actually kick in, but it really can make a difference. So don't feel disalarmed if you've been taking it for a month and your period is still quite heavy. Give yourself a little bit of time, you know, at least 2, if not 3 cycles to see how things level out. And like I say, if there is something more going on, you feel like it's been going on a long time and you feel like you would just like to get it checked out, do make sure that you go and see your GP, because, you know, there's always that chance that it could be something more significant. But don't panic, because normally it turns out to be your estrogen dominance and just having low progesterone at times when you would like it to be a little bit higher. So you know, if you have enjoyed this video and enjoyed learning a little bit more about managing to go through the perimenopause and managing it through diet and lifestyle changes, then I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel by clicking the button below. And if you'd like to get started with learning a little bit more about how you can change your diet during this period of your life, then check out my hormone balancing recipe guide, which I've put the link to in the description. And also, if you are struggling with low progesterone levels, I did create a video a couple of months ago which has been really popular, so I've put the link to that there as well, so you can check out how to boost your progesterone levels naturally. So thanks for watching, have a great day.